everybody, and welcome to a Not a Series review. It's like rah, not a series review, get excited. Now yes, this is not a series review, but this is a book where I'm gonna say BookTube made me read it. And I'm glad that BookTube made me read it, because oh my gosh, this book was so much fun, and I read it in like, a sitting and a half. And that book is Tokyo Heist by Diana Wren. As you can guess, this is a heist novel that takes place in Tokyo. I know, super original, right? Actually, this is a really, really fun book. It does take place in Tokyo. It also does take place in Seattle. Actually, that's where we start. So our protagonist is a 16-year-old girl by the name of Violet, who is a budding artist. She's not just any artist, though. She's a budding manga artist. And she also has a dad who's a pretty famous artist. Like, traditional art, not manga art. She goes to stay with him for the summer and meets his latest sort of patrons, in a way, who are a very wealthy couple from Japan. Unfortunately for everyone involved, they were just robbed. They weren't just robbed of anything, though. They were robbed of some extremely valuable and extremely rare Van Gogh drawings. What ensues is a massive chase, mystery, and investigation to not only recover these lost Van Gogh drawings, but discover the location of a missing Van Gogh painting. What I really enjoy about this story is that it's never a mystery as to who stole the drawings, because we're pretty much told by like page 50-ish, maybe even a little earlier, as to whom actually stole the drawings, and it is actually the leader of a very dangerous Yakuza clan. The Yakuza, for those of you who don't know, is essentially like the Japanese organized crime syndicate. They are extremely dangerous, extremely feared in Japan, and they have unfortunately spread out to the West. Like any organized crime syndicate, whether it's the Mafia or the Vorowshchikone. I probably said that totally wrong, but that's the Russian mob. But yes, we're dealing with the Yakuza, and these guys are dangerous, and that's made pretty clear from early off in the story. Violet ends up traveling with her father to Japan. Well, she's staying with him, and he's been commissioned to paint a massive mural at the company building for this wealthy Japanese couple, and of course Violet takes this opportunity to be like, hey, maybe I can discover the lost Van Gogh painting. That'd be cool, because nobody knows where it is. This family knows that they had it. The one family member who bought it and had it committed suicide, but never left any clue as to where the painting was. So they're like, we don't know. We don't know. So that's the predominant mystery of the story, and I enjoy that much more than a, so who committed the heist story. I kind of like knowing from the offset, okay, it's the Yakuza, and we know exactly which Yakuza leader it is. Beyond that, the mystery is related but different, and has a very different set of consequences for those involved, dependent upon whether this Van Gogh painting is actually found. Violet is a lead character. She's a 16-year-old girl who's self-conscious and is kind of introspective and an art type, and she is very into manga and anime and Japanese culture, though she's not what the Japanese would call an otaku. Let's take a moment and talk about this term otaku real quickly. Otaku is a term that is applied much more liberally out here in the West than it is in Japan. Out here in the West, otaku just sort of means someone who's a fan of Japanese media and culture. It's kind of like calling someone a Japanophile out here. It's nothing extreme, it's just you like to read manga and watch anime and you like Japanese culture. I mean, then you just get out here, get called an otaku. However, in Japan, to be called an otaku, it's essentially an insult. An otaku is someone who is essentially socially inept, and you're so obsessed with things like manga and anime and these like video games and such that you basically can't function socially. It's like takes the stereotypical socially inept nerd geek kind of person and put it to the umpteenth degree. It's an insult. You don't want to get called an otaku, and you don't want to identify as an otaku in Japan. So now that you understand that, when I say that Violet is an otaku by Western standards, I mean that she's really more of just a Japanophile. She's not really a Japanese otaku. Which is actually a really good thing, because it then makes sense that she's really excited to go to Tokyo. It makes sense that she knows at least a couple words of Japanese. Not much to really be able to get around, but a couple things she goes, yeah, I heard that in an anime all the time. They say that in this show. She references some manga, and that's why she's so inspired by it, and is actually drawing her own manga, which I thought was pretty cool. And actually she uses this manga as an outlet for her thought process on this missing Van Gogh painting case. it's actually a neat way to look at things. The other primary characters whom we spend time with in this story are her two best friends and her dad. Her dad is on the outside a very frustrating character, because I think if you're not a creative person or you've been in no way involved in something artistic, he's gonna come across as a basically seemingly neglectful asshole of a guy. Because he's so wrapped up in his work that he just completely ignores his daughter, as it seems most of the time. Now, let me just say, I have been involved in something creative or artistic since I was very, very young. I've played the flute and the piccolo for over 10 years. I sang for longer than that. I doodle, though I'm not very good. I write, though I'm not very good. And I'm generally love to be around creative things. And I'm a very creative person in my own way. So when I'm playing a piece of music, or I'm trying to write something, or I'm video editing, or anything like that, I'm very much in a bubble. Really, I'm not even in a bubble, I'm in a tunnel. And I am tunnel visioned. It's very much a state of hyper-focus. Do not disturb, do not burst the bubble, do not yank me out of the tunnel, don't do anything, because I'm either not going to react, because I'm not even going to, have that breach my consciousness, or it's just not going to be a pretty reaction. Really, not a pretty reaction. And that's kind of what happens with Glenn, who's Violet's father, in that most of the time, he's just completely unaware of everything because he's an artist and he's so tunnel visioned on his work that everything else is irrelevant. And it also means that every now and then when Violet or someone else disturbs him from his work, he has a very kind of bad reaction to being disturbed. And while I'm not trying to say that because he's an artist it excuses his behavior, it certainly doesn't. I think you need to put yourself in that mindset in order to kind of understand where he's coming from, which makes him a little less frustrating in a way at times. He is still frustrating because I do think he sort of takes it a little too far at times. But from someone who's coming in on the perspective of having been the creative person in that situation, I can kind of see some of his reactions. Whatever the case, that makes him fairly three-dimensional and actually kind of interesting to follow, if not a little bit frustrating most of the time. The other two main people, as I said, are Violet's friend, kind of best friends. You have Edge, who is her male best friend back in the States, in Seattle, and Reika, who is her friend whom she sees when she goes to Japan. Reika is half American, I believe, and half Japanese, and so she's the perfect person for Violet to have as a friend. She comes initially in as Violet's foil, and that she's very outgoing and beautiful and kind of wealthy, and dresses in really nice clothes, and is outgoing, and gets noticed by guys, and Violet's very much just like, no, that's not me, I'm much more introverted, I just want to doodle, and I've had a crush on someone and I can't tell him. Surprise, surprise, it's Edge, who's her best friend from back home. I love Edge as a character, and he is barely in the novel. Seriously, Edge is barely in this book. He comes in a little at the beginning and he comes in a little at the end. But by the end of the book, when he comes back in, I was like, I know everything about Edge. I know what type of person he is. I can understand why he and Violet are friends. I can understand why she wants to be more than friends with him. He was a character who didn't even need to be there that much. And I knew who Edge was. I understood his personality. I could understand his reactions to things. He's a great character, and he's barely in the novel. This is my little open letter to Diana Wren. Dear Diana Wren, could you please write me a sequel or a companion novel about Edge and some fabulous adventures? Because I would love to have some sort of film-related heist story or adventure story or mystery or something involving Edge, because I think it would be awesome. I say sequel because of things that happen at the end with Edge. Although it doesn't have to be. I just think that would be really cool. Sincerely me. But yes, Edge, fun character, kind of wanted more of him, even though I didn't necessarily need more of him in terms of how the story goes. Overall, this is just a really fun read. Like I said, I read it pretty quickly. It's not that long, but it's a fun heist novel. And if you like Japan or Japanese culture in any way, you'll enjoy the heck out of Tokyo Heist. It's a good one for people who are Japanophiles, because you're gonna be like, I recognize all these references and these little things you keep bringing up. I know these. But that's it from me tonight, you guys, and so until next time, cheers.